Neffeler. I've known Stu for a good number of years. Stu rode in the 1950s, and Stu was part of, I think, the only crew, is this true, that beat Cal Berkeley years back. And was that at Bologna Creek, I think?
Bologna Creek.
Bologna Creek. So we're hoping that now with our new coach, the same thing happens, if not this year, next year. So I'm just going to read a little bit of Stu's background, because he's had a pretty interesting life. So he grew up in West LA. Pearl Harbor was bombed on his 9th birthday, so I guess he remembers that day.
Yeah.
He was in a pretty bad auto accident in '51, and he got a flyer advertising, "Come join USC men's crew," and that was the reason he joined the team, was he thought that was a good way to recover and get his strength back after that accident. So now I'd never heard of that as a reason for joining the team, so that's a new reason. But he stayed with the team for, I think it was all 4 years. He also rode with Jack Schumacher, that most of you know, and he rode with Ken Norris, who was one of the early founders of the program. Stu was in the Air Force ROTC, so that kept him from getting drafted into the Korean War. His dad was in something I didn't know of, the Army Air Force. So he comes from a military background. He got moved around a lot as a kid. By the time he graduated from high school, he had been in 9 different schools. So he's learned to be a Bedouin of sorts, 12 different home addresses. He didn't get drafted into the Korean War, but the budget for deferments from the military got cut. So he realized he had to join some part of the military, and he did join the Army. and he was based at a base up here in California. The base isn't there anymore. But his assignment was to teach machine guns and grenades. So, Stu's hearing is not what it typically would be because of exactly that. He spent many, many, many years around machine guns and grenades. So when you come and talk to Stu, just understand hearing is not the greatest. He got a bachelor's and an MBA from SC, so he's an academic. Continued to row with a bunch of other guys. His background is in publishing. I don't know if you work for the San Diego Tribune. I know you work for the LA Times.
I work for the LA Times and the Tribune both.
Yeah. So of all the guys that have been on the crew team, let's say the last 4 decades, probably the best writer, if you want someone to write something for you, is this guy.
Well, I wasn't a journalist. I was in the business side of it. Yeah.
But you're a good writer, and Schumacher and I have talked about your writing often. And if you ever want to communicate with him, as he told me years back, don't call me, email me. I can't hear, but I can write. So he took a job in San Diego in '66, so that's probably how you came to San Diego. Yeah. He lives down here, lives up in, I think, La Jolla. And then goes on and on and on. I'm not going to belabor it other than he is, of all the guys that have rowed for us since the program began in 1948, I can comfortably say that no one has competed more and longer than Stu. I don't know if you're still competing.
I'm trying, but we will wait and see.
But as recently as last year and the year before, he was telling me about races that he was doing in Michigan and other places, and his anger at losing by, a bow or whatever. So he gets just as angry as he used to, and he still competes. So a lot of us admire him for that. So I'm not going to read the rest of his bio, it's long. I do have a handout that has his complete bio plus the team's history. So if any parent or anyone wants to have a copy, I've got extra copies here. But with no further ado, let's just give Stu a warm congratulations for all of his years.
Good to see the turnout today, and I wish you well in your race, whoever is going to race today. And we'll keep an eye on the results for the rest of the year. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Stu.
Drink it or pour it?
Martinelli. Yeah, drink it first, then pour it. Drink it and then pour it.
Stu Neffeler.
All right, so now we're going to dedicate the second shell to Jim Shontere. Thank you, Stu. To Marla Shontere, Jim's wife, 10 minutes ago. And Marla, just raise your hand and let's give Marla a welcome. If you want to know anything about competitive equestrian activities, she's probably the right person to talk to. But what I was saying to Marla before I read a little bit about Jim is that one of the great things about both our school but sports like USC Men's Crew is it gives you the opportunity of making friendships that you normally wouldn't have. You typically make friends through your work, your neighborhood, family, whatever. And I will say, and Jim, I'm sure the feeling is reciprocated, that we're 10 years apart. You graduated in '69, I graduated in '79. Through the last, 10, 20 years or longer that we have both been trying to help the crew, we've really developed a good friendship. And that's the one thing that I think Jim and I can say hopefully for the rest of you, is that years after you're out of SC, undergrad or grad, hopefully you have a chance to meet new friends through the school and develop the same kind of friendship and rapport that Jim and I have today. It's a real plus. So, with that said, So Jim went to school at SC from 65 to 69, same time period as my brother Bob Crosby, who was an accounting major. And I don't know if you ever crossed paths. It's a half brother, so Crosby is the last name. Did you ever know Crosby in accounting? All right. So the comment he made, and some of what I'm reading is information they've given to me to mention, is that if you remember the 1960s, when he was in college, was probably the most tumultuous time period in modern American history. So the 67, 68, 69, most of the campuses, UCSB, Stanford, Berkeley, and to a lesser extent, UCLA and SC, a lot of the time during the year the classes were closed, campuses had riots, so it was an interesting time period for Jim to be at SC. I'll just read this. He lived on the 3rd floor. I hope he didn't say anything bad in what I'm about to read. Can Marley hear this?
Yes.
Jim lived on the 3rd floor of Trojan Hall during the fall semester of his first year. Elmer Yoakum, who rode in the 3 seat, also lived on the 3rd floor. Apparently, so Jim coxed for all 4 years, and we're hoping that most of you have the same experience of rowing or coxing all 4 years. Sophie, is this your 3rd year or 4th year? So Sophie is one of the few people, give her a hand, that has had the full duration. Yeah, and Jim was like that. Jim coxed all 4 years. Elmer Yoakum rode all four years, and that's, as Coach would say, that's how you develop a first-class team that can beat Cal. We've done it in the past, we can do it again, but you have to have that longevity. And he said within the first week of class at USC, Elmer recruited Jim to come down to the boathouse for practice. And as Jim said, he never left. He got asked, and that was 4 years later. To the best of Jim's memory, neither of them missed one day of practice in 4 years of training. And I think the coach would also echo that if you want to have a first-class team like Cal and Washington and Yale, it's got to be a priority. You got to be there on time, every day. Jim also rode with 2 other guys that have since passed away. One was a banker in New York for Bear Stearns, and basically, I've asked a lot of these guys, do you keep in touch with the folks that you rode with? I keep in touch with a couple. My son Peter over there, raise your hand, Peter. He rode for 3 years as I did for SC. He's still fast, I'm not. He rows for our alumni boat. But keeping in touch with your boat mates is a really nice thing, and I encourage you guys to try and do that, especially your first year out of college. Bob Hillen, who most know, is really was the coach for the first 40 years of the team, and he coached for nothing. So it says Bob Hillen coached those years, and one item that was always needed, and this is where the humor is, where Jim's talking about Coach Hillen, is we needed backup megaphones because Bob went through quite a few of them banging on, I don't know, boats, people's heads. In fact, Hillen had such a temper, and we're hoping that Coach Cates doesn't have the same temper. Hillen's temper was so bad that all of us that have rowed over the years think that if LA Harbor was ever dredged, you'd see, 70 megaphones, 11 benches, 14, screws for riggers, all in the bay, because he would get so angry in his coach's launch, and then he'd throw something really expensive and important into the bay, and it's all now at the bottom. So being a member of USC's men's crew during his undergraduate years was really important to him. He said the team went through lean years at times, and that's always been kind of our cycle, UCLA cycle, is you have good years and then you kind of wane down. And the goal that a lot of us in the alumni side have always been is to try and create some degree of continuity. Jim's focus, he does a lot of mentoring in the Marshall School of Business. He's been a big donor to the team and to USC, but his mentoring is really important, and just having the students do well academically at school is a priority, and all of us as alums want to make sure that everyone knows. school is first, crew is a very, very close second. And then that's about it. So, with that said, he's been involved deeply as an alum ever since the program came back in 2000, and he has been a vice president of finance for Shea Construction for years. He has the longest commute of anyone I've ever met because he lives down in Monarch Bay and he drives an hour plus every day. But he's become a good friend. He has been instrumental in keeping the alumni together and to finance the program. So this 8 is way overdue. It should have happened years ago, and he's a very, very deserving guy. Please give Jim a warm congratulations.
I must say this is really an honor, and when I talked to Jack Schumacher, you know, Jack is really the person, along with Stan and myself, who have been deeply involved, especially since 2000, but this is really made possible by Jack's generosity. And when he let me know that he wanted to put my name on a vote, he was a little concerned that I'd be okay with it, I think. But I'm just thrilled with it, and I'm very honored by it, and I really appreciate Stan's friendship over all these years, and also Jack's. Jack would certainly be here today if he could, but it's really, you know, and Stan and I talked a little bit about this, you know, even in those lean years, we so valued the experience that we had rowing in college, and we just were not willing to give it up and to say that you know, we are so committed to having this be an enduring program at the school, and so it's with Coach Cates, with a re-energized team that we really are excited about. It's a turning point, an inflection point, we think, in our crew program, and so we're excited about what we can accomplish this year, and really looking forward to the future. We're talking about beating Cal. I know Coach is smiling over here, you know, thinking that he knows the hard work that goes into getting there, and it starts with your week at the Newport Aquatic Center and all the hard work that goes into making yourselves better individually and collectively as a team. So again, a great thank you to Jack for making this possible, and I'm thrilled to have my name on a boat. I never really thought about it, to be honest with you, until Jack let me know that he was doing it. But I really look forward to the future of the team and to its longevity, and I encourage all of you similarly, when you graduate, to stay involved in whatever way you can, and have the younger generation help to carry it on as well. So with that, thank you very much.
You gotta drink it first.
Oh, I gotta drink it?
And then, and then pour long enough so that they can take pictures of you pouring. Just keep pouring.
Tell me when to stop.
Okay. James Shontere. Congratulations. Very, very, very deserved way.
Thank you to everybody.
Thank you.